We are standing in one of my favorite places in the whole world, our mobile outdoor kitchen. We are camping in the Rincon Mountains, just southeast of Tucson, and you can see it is spring and there is water running in this creek right behind me. There's gorgeous boulders. You can see I've got some dinner prepped. We've got our stove and sink over here for our little camper, and Eric's hanging out. We've got mountains, and it is a beautiful spring day. We're in the shade of cottonwood trees in this creek valley. So today we're going to be making some chili. I'm trying out a new recipe, a plant-forward chili recipe. It does have a little bit of meat, but it has lots of veggies. Let's check it out.
Hey everyone, I'm Dr. Christina Kraft, a lifestyle medicine specialist. In our busy world, figuring out what a healthy lifestyle looks like can feel overwhelming. And there's truly no one-size-fits-all approach to creating health. On Handcrafted Life, we show you what well-being looks like for us, inspired by the principles of lifestyle medicine. Join us as we share our experiences, and maybe you'll find some inspiration to craft your own unique path to health and happiness.
So I like chili, but I don't like it how it's just so heavy and meaty and makes you feel like, oh, after you eat it. So we're trying something out. I have got a whole bunch of different types of pasilla, hatch chilies, and jalapenos from our garden, garlic, onions, and we're going to add tempeh to this. It is a fermented soybean product, and it's really one of the better ways to get fermented protein in your diet. And to get a little bit of that meaty flavor, we're going to add about 1/3 of a pound of ground pork. So we've got that. I also have some, it's a little bit sad looking right now, but this is a whole bunch of chopped and frozen kale we're going to be adding to it. Chicken stock to add more liquid if we need to. We've got 3 different types of tomatoes. I might use all 3 of these cans. I might use only 2. Black beans and kidney beans, and then I made a chili spice mixture before we left for our trip, and this smells like, it just smells like a bowl of chili. It's so good. It's got garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, smoked paprika, turmeric, chili powder, a little bit of oregano, a little bit of cayenne pepper. It's going to be amazing. I'm excited. Let's get started chopping. All right, I have 5 garlic cloves. We're going to chop these up first so that they can start to sit on the board while I'm chopping everything else up. And now we have 4 garlic cloves. And let's move away from the edge and let the Allison release from these garlic cloves so it's even better for us, because garlic is amazing. Squish, choppy chop. When you cut up peppers, it is a lot easier to cut them from the inside rather than the outside where the skin is, especially if you're using your camping knife and not your super sharp chef's knife. And I just realized I did not sharpen this one before we left, so we will. Ooh, was I smart enough to bring my sharpener? This was a gift from Eric for me for one of my birthdays, because he knows how much my favorite thing to do when we're camping is cooking. And he watched me chopping with dull knives. Didn't really notice with the garlic. When you're chopping garlic, it's just kind of blunt force trauma. All right, let's see if that made a difference. Yeah, a little better. Actually, a lot better. Fantastic. So if I was to take chili and get a can of chili and bring it on this trip, I would still have chili, but I would have chili that was full of salt and preservatives and questionable meat sources. I have pork I'm putting in there, but the pork is organic. It's got a fair fat content still because we're not using a whole bunch of it. We're not using beef. So I have control over my ingredients this way, and I can use some of the things that we grew that are truly organic, and some of the things I bought from the store that were on the Clean 15 list, which means you don't have to buy them organic. If anyone doesn't know what that is, if you go online when you're grocery shopping and you're having the thought, do I need to spend the money on this particular fruit or vegetable organic, or can I just buy the one that's on sale? Because generally the vegetables and fruits that are on sale are in season, so those are the ones you want anyway. So if you're having that thought, go on your phone, quick look up clean 15 and dirty dozen, and it will tell you the fruits and vegetables currently that have the most likelihood to be coated in pesticides and residues in the dirty 15, and the clean 15 are the ones that are grown with the least amount of pesticides and residues. So these are chilies actually and peppers from last year. I've got jalapenos and I think this is a serrano, and these are from the garden, so they're frozen, so they're a little bit squishy, and we're going to get heat from these because these are actually pretty darn spicy. So we're going to leave the seeds in these because I like spicy food. If you do not like oh, that one just squirted. If you do not like spicy food, pull these inner ribs and seeds out and just don't add them to the pot, and it won't be as spicy. But we like spicy and we don't mind it. Luckily, our bellies can handle it. If yours can't, that's okay. Just pull out the insides and add fewer chilies, and you will still get amazing flavor that way. Just less heat. Also, if you're growing your own peppers, there's these things called jalapenos. And you can find the seeds online. You might be able to find plants somewhere if you want plant starts. And they're jalapenos that have been bred to have less spiciness, which can be really helpful. So we've got a beautiful plethora of colors with our peppers here. So I'm going to pop these in this bowl so I can chop up this zucchini. Now my goal with the zucchini is not to have big chunks of zucchini, just to chop it up pretty fine so that we can add bulk and vegetable and nutrient content without like, oh, I'm eating zucchini in my chili. That's interesting. So chili is one of those great ways if you've got kids or spouses that are not the biggest fan of veggies. Ayla, do you want a zucchini? Not today? Okay. Ayla sometimes loves the zucchini butts. I want to make sure I offer them to her. If Lumos was here, he would be all over that. I have a cat that is a vegetarian. He loves everything vegetable. But if you want to bulk out something with lots of nutrients for your family, chili is a great way to do that. You can add so many vegetables, and like peppers and zucchini and onions are cheap. You can add a whole bunch of vegetable matter in a package that most people aren't going to complain about if you've got a veggie picky person. So I cut these up, but I kind of want to cut them up a little bit smaller. So I'm not doing that very gracefully, but I just want to get these little chunks nice and tiny to start with, and then I'm going to run my knife through them. So these ones that are fatter. All right, so now I've got little sticks. Okay, bundle these all up and start going for it. So I am curling my fingers away. I don't know if you can see that. We have a first aid kit on this trip. Hopefully I don't have to use it. I guarantee you the chili that you buy from the grocery store in a can that's full of all kind of preservatives and more sodium than anyone needs in their diet in like 3 days of time does not have fresh zucchini chopped into it and cooked into it to begin with. So the next thing I'm going to do is crumple up this tempeh. And you can see when you buy it, if you don't use it right away and then you see these dark spots, you're thinking, oh no, it went bad, it's molding. That's what it looks like when it's brand new. Don't throw it away, it's okay. It's fermented, it's gonna have color variation. It's essentially pressed soybeans. And we're gonna pop this open and we're gonna crumble this and brown this in with first the onions, because browned onions taste amazing. If you don't like onions, it's because you haven't ever cooked them enough. Cook them first in everything and everything tastes better. Then we're gonna add the tempeh and brown it and the pork and brown it with some of our spice. And we've already got our kale already chopped up. So we have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of peppers, onions, zucchini, and garlic so far. And we're going to add tomatoes and kale. That's at least 9 veggies in this meal. And then you add the beans, 2 different types of beans. That's 11 different vegetables in this meal. Okay, I brought this pot from home. I really like cooking in this pot when we're camping. I actually bought it for camping because it was on sale, and then we brought it home and realized it was amazing. It's got a really heavy bottom, and on camp stoves, the heat is frequently not even. So getting a heavy bottom pot to cook with you when you're camping, if you have something where you can transfer it easily, not backpacking, is really nice. So I'm going to be adding olive oil to brown our veggies in. Olive oil is amazing for you, and we're going to be generous with that because unlike a lot of chili recipes where you're adding ground beef and ground pork as huge main bulkers, there's not a lot of fat in our ingredients. So we want to get our fat from healthier sources like olive oil. So we're going to brown in this today. First thing we're going to add to this pot is onions. So we've got our onions. Our oil isn't super hot yet because I just added it, but that's okay. We're not in a huge rush. We're camping. It's not going to get as hot as my super hot home stove. So everything's a little bit slower, a little bit mellower when we're camping, which is nice. And if I can wrestle the beer out of my husband's hands, I will probably add a little bit of onion to these beers beer to these onions, not in those proportions, while they're browning. It will add a little bit of sugar content and add just a little bit more interesting flavor in the chili. It smells good already. All right, now we just get to wait and be patient, and I'm going to drink wine. Our onions are browning, and I have got our beans open and remembered our can opener so we could open both of them, which is important. And I'm going to drain these and strain them and rinse them off. It's good to rinse off your beans before you add them to things. It just gets kind of the can flavor just in there off of them and takes away some of that sludginess. So we have our sink draining to a bucket because we don't have a gray water or black water tank in our camper or a bathroom, which is nice. And that'll be used to put out our campfire later if the wind dies down and we can actually have one. All right, so we have got black and kidney beans, and these are good for chili. You can add a third bean if you are making it at home. This is going to be too much for us to eat here. I have a container. We're going to have it tomorrow morning for with eggs for breakfast too. So when these are ready, we'll add these more towards the end. Let's check our onions. Oh, there we go. So I have the lid on because it is a little bit breezy, but these are starting to cook nicely. They're not browning yet, so we're gonna need that a little bit longer. What I'm gonna do at this point though, is I am gonna add a little bit of our chili spice mixture. When you are cooking, and see I've got them labeled chili, it is good to flavor your ingredients throughout the browning process. And there's salt in this too, which will help the process. Just to make sure every single bit of what you're eating has a little bit of flavor. And when you toast these spices, it changes their flavor profile also. So you can see there's turmeric in that, so it instantly turned yellow. How to make your chili healthier? Add turmeric, anti-inflammatory. Our onions are starting to get a bit translucent, not browned yet, and I want to add in our tempeh and our meat. So we're gonna let these keep going, and I'm gonna show you what this tempeh looks like. So we've got our chopped veggies. I've opened up the tempeh, and this is what I was talking about. It comes and it has these dark spots like this. It's still good. That's what it looks like. It's fermented. So let me show you how I crumple this into our onion and garlic. Not onion, no garlic yet. Onion and olive oil mixture. So I literally just come over here and start breaking it in. You want it to pretend like it's ground turkey. That's essentially what we're replacing with this, if you're thinking of doing a meat replacement, but with a much better, different type of protein. So I'm breaking this in, and it has the soybean texture still, and it holds its texture, which is kind of nice. So when you break it in little chunks, it's kind of fun. Get your hands dirty when you're cooking. It's okay. They wash, even when you're camping. We have got this nice and broken up, and I am going to right away add a little bit more of our chili mixture. So with tempeh especially, you want to make sure you season it as you're browning it. Otherwise, it doesn't get quite that awesome meaty flavor that it can get. Paprika and garlic and onion is the secret ingredient to add to tempeh to make it taste like really good ground turkey. All right, so we've got this. We're mixing it in. You can see I've got a good layer of spice on all of that. And the turmeric, they're turning everything a beautiful yellow hue. We'll let this go for a little bit, and I'm going to push all of this down, put the lid partially on because once again, Our stove is hot, but it's not like screaming hot like it would be at home. So we're going to let this brown on one side and not stir it. Resist the stir. It's so hard. Make sure that your lid is cocked so it doesn't carry too much water. Let this start to brown on one side, stir it once, and then we'll add our protein, our other protein. I resisted the stir for as long as I could. We've got a little bit of brown chunks, or browned bits on our chunks of tempeh and onion, and our spices are starting to brown down to the surface. So what I'm going to do is actually release those spices, a little bit of liquid called deglazing, and the liquid I'm going to use is, can I please have your beer, honey? I promise I'll give it back. A little bit of beer. Yeah, there's the sizzle. So what you'll see as I do this is the spices start to lift. And this is going to add just one more layer of flavor complexity to our chili. There we go. So we'll let this cook in to this just a little bit. And then I'm going to, once it starts to sizzle and all the liquid is cooked off, I'm going to add the pork. There you go. You can have this back. All right, our liquid has cooked off and we're starting to sizzle again. Let's add our pork. Right in. And just like I did with the tempeh, we're going to give that a little bit of a season. You're adding layers of flavor in your chili. If you just add all of your vegetables, all of your onion, all of your meat at once, without giving each individual component a little bit of brown time, your food's not going to taste as good. Now, I know also some of you are thinking, wait, you're teaching us healthy cooking things, and you're a plant-forward eater. Beans. And you just added beer to your recipe. Eating and being healthy isn't about doing every single thing perfect. You don't have to be perfect to be healthy. You just have to do better than you are in general on most days. We're camping. This is a celebration. So we're having a little bit of beer in our chili, and it's going to be amazing. We have got some browning happening on the bottom of our pan with our pork and tempeh and onions, a little bit of beer and our spices. We're going to add our chilies and peppers to our chili. So we've got those in here, and we're just going to put these as a little bit of a layer on top and let that continue to brown down a little bit more. And once these have started to cook down and also get a little bit softened and browned, we'll add in our zucchini. The zucchini is in tiny chunks, so it'll cook in the simmer process, and it's not as important for the zucchini to get brown, to get flavor, as it is for the pork and the onions and the peppers and the chilies to actually get brown. That's where so much of this amazing flavor is going to come from. So once these are starting to get a little bit softened, we'll come back in and add our other ingredients. So I don't know if you can see this, but do you see this layer right down here, this brown stuff? This is some of the spices, some of the things we're cooking. This is the flavor in your chili. That's the good stuff. So our peppers are almost browned and almost softening. So we'll be adding our zucchini and kale and garlic next. All right, you can see our nice little dark bits here. We're going to add our zucchinis right in. Tiny little dice, and then our fresh garlic. There's a whole bunch of garlic powder in the spice mix, but fresh garlic for its benefits and flavor, and powdered garlic or granulated garlic for its richness of flavor. All right, we're going to mix this in. Let this start to brown up just a little bit more. And, I need to add the kale. So we'll please cook in a little bit, and we're starting to get our nice browned layer on the bottom of our pot. Not blackened yet, just nice and browned. Next, we'll be adding a little bit more of our liquidy ingredients with our canned tomatoes and a little bit of tomato paste to add some richness. So we added our kale and zucchinis about 2 minutes ago. And if you look down in this pot, our bottom layer is getting browned, almost blackened. That is perfect. That is the time when you want to add your tomatoes and your liquids and the rest of your spices. So I've got the rest of my chili mix. We're going right in with that. And I've got my diced tomatoes with hatch roasted garlic green chilies. We'll add that in. And then I got whole tomatoes. I like the whole tomatoes because I like tactile things, right? I like big chunks of tomatoes. So we're going to get one of these whole tomatoes, get it down low, and give it a squish. It's going to explode. And just kind of break it up with your hands. I like big chunks of tomatoes in my chili. It's kind of like a nice surprise rather than the perfect petite diced. Perfect doesn't work for me. it's nice to have abnormal chunks. And you're going to add the liquid from this, unlike the beans. This is literally adding more amazing acidity and tomato flavor to your chili. When you add more acidity to your food, it helps any animal proteins break down while they're cooking so that you can digest them easier, get more of the nutrients from them. So we have got all of our diced and canned tomatoes. I have one more can of tomatoes that I'm reserving to see if I want to add that third can yet. So I've got these in here, and I am going to add a little squirt of tomato paste also to increase the richness of this. So a little bit of tomato paste, that's probably about a tablespoon. I'm going to stir this in, and the liquid from these tomatoes is going to deglaze the bottom of this pan after I wash my hands. We need more liquid, we need more tomatoes. We're adding the third can of tomatoes with diced habaneros. This is going to be fire hot chili. All right, all of the tomatoes are in. Now let's see what this liquid looks like. As we stir this in, you can see that browned bottom that we were talking about on that pan has completely lifted. It has deglazed. So this is pretty thick still, but we now have a better level of liquid. We've got all of our spices, all of our proteins, all of our veggies. We're going to add our beans. Here are our beans, minus the few that Ayla's going to clean up for me that I just spilled on the ground. Mixing these in. If these break up a little bit, that's okay. This is still too thick, but I planned ahead for this. I brought a can of chicken bone broth that we made last week, or a jar of it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some of that and add that to this mixture also. Beautiful chicken bone broth. Pop that open. Increase our collagen, nutrient content, and flavor in our chili. That looks right, but still needs to cook for quite a bit longer. So now that we've got this liquid content, which looks right, add a little bit more liquid because it's going to lose some liquid as it cooks. So we've got about 2.5 cups of chicken broth in there, also chicken bone broth. So we are going to cover this with our lid, which actually has vent holes that we can use, and let this cook for probably about another hour. If heat rises, apparently smell sinks. Ayla is guarding the chili, making sure it cooks perfectly. I love spicy food. I made this a little bit too spicy for us today. So about 45 minutes into this just simmering like it has been, and you can take a look at this nice slow simmer. I tasted it and it was still just a little bit on the spicy scale. So what I did, and what you can do to cut down on the spiciness level and add a whole nother depth of flavor to something like this chili, is add about a teaspoon to a tablespoon of sugar. It cuts down on the spicy and adds just another little delicious flavor. It's not very much in this entire pot of chili to have a few granules of sugar in a bowl. That's okay. So now I'm going to turn the heat off on this, cover it, and let it sit for about 20 to 30 minutes before we eat it. And it will congeal even more and be even more tasty. I will show you in about 20 to 30 minutes how I'm going to top this, and we'll eat it for dinner tonight. Avocados are one of the best fruits, vegetables. I think they're technically a fruit for you. They're full of fat and fiber, and they are creamy and delicious and taste like heaven. And we are going to add fat to our chili with this since we don't have a lot of animal fat. Okay, let's plate this up and show you what it looks like. So we have these avocados. And we're just going to spoon this out after we've already cut it so it comes out in perfect bite-sized little chunks. Look at that. That's how you make guacamole easy too. I didn't cut this evenly, so we're going to pop a little bit more out of this one. There we go. And I want to add a little bit of a different crunch on top. You could have this with cornbread, but we're camping, so that's a little bit much for camping. I didn't want to get a Dutch oven going. It's windy. So we're going to take these multigrain crackers, thank you Trader Joe's, and add some crunch to this in a breadcrumb way. Oh my goodness, that looks so good. Do you want extra breadcrumbs, baby? I know you like crunchy stuff.
Oh, I do.
All right, I'll give you a bigger pile.
Yep.
Is that enough, or do you want some more?
Give me double.
Oh yeah, crunchy bits. There we go.
Hell yeah.
All right, that's going to be dinner. Let's see what it tastes like. Oh, I missed an avocado. You didn't tell me.
I didn't see.
Awesome. Okay. Mmm. Creamy from the avocado, crunchy from the crackers, spicy from the chilies, satisfying and meaty from the tempeh and pork and beans. This is a bowl full of delicious plants and protein and flavor and fiber and all of the good things. This is going to make us feel amazing rather than heavy from too much meat, too much chili. I'm excited to eat this. I'm going to do that now. Whoop! All over me. Every time.